Same-sex marriage is back in the spotlight this week with today's vote in North Carolina. Proposed ban on it for the Constitution. Obama administration officials taking sides in a debate where their boss is publicly evolving. 18 months now evolving. Let's bring in the panel. Roll call: Shira, Toeplitz, Kasie Hunt from the Associated Press and on the Romney Trail, and Faiz Shakir, editor-in-chief of thinkprogress.org. All right, let's talk about the politics of this. Faiz, I want to start with you. What's worse here for the president, not having a position, or not answering whether he has finished evolving on this or not, or taking a position for or against?
Well, the hard part of this is that everyone seems to think that Obama has a stance on this. It's internal. It's probably for pro-gay marriage. The fact that he withholds it suggests that he's concerned about political realities. And I think this, in 2002, when he was talking about the Iraq War, remember, he spoke with great moral clarity about an issue because he didn't think he was going to be president. He wasn't worried about battleground states. And it was that made people feel excited about him. I would hope that he can channel that kind of moral clarity now and suggest what's in his heart and let it out.
I want to show a little timeline on President Obama and gay rights. So October 2010, President on same-sex marriage, speaking to progressive bloggers. That's the first time he says his attitudes are evolving. Kasie Hunt. December 2010, he signs the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which, by the way, you know, they take a lot of credit for. Remember, that had to be, it was Congress. It was sort of, a lot of people thought the president had to get dragged into making that. There was some concern, was he ready to do it when he did it? But he did it at the time. Administration in February of 2011 stops defending DOMA. And of course, we know about the president's quote itself. But Kasie Hunt, the other fascinating thing about this over the last 48 hours, silence from the Republican and Romney side. It's not as if they believe this is somehow a good issue to say, oh, look, we can exploit. Democrats are the pro-gay marriage party. And they don't necessarily want to be seen as the anti-gay marriage party, do that.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a conversation that they have no interest in having either. Mitt Romney made some very brief comments about it yesterday to a local TV station in Ohio, basically saying, you know, my position is that marriage is between one man and one woman, and that's never going to change. But, you know, you've seen them have to sort of grapple with some issues around gay rights, even in their own campaign. You had a national security spokesman who resigned after the campaign really didn't step out front to defend him aggressively when he took some serious heat from the right wing. So Romney also has to walk this careful line between the right wing and the social conservatives in his party, many of whom have been uncomfortable with him historically, and, you know, others who say that the country is going in the direction of supporting these rights.
You know, Shira, and this political calculation that you hear from Democrats of, like, why could President Obama be holding out, that Faiz was bringing up? And they always point to, well, more religious African Americans. But, you know, when we did our last NBC Wall Street Journal, the biggest jumps in support for gay marriage came from African Americans.
Right, and if you look at the president's support from states like Ohio, I've drilled down in those numbers, and his support from African Americans is unprecedented. It's something like 95% approval rating. This is not one of the groups and areas he needs to work on. What I think is interesting here is that in many ways his position, his evolving position, is running contrary to the platform he ran again 4 years ago. That is in many ways post-partisan and not political. And I think that's going to be a growing narrative, an evolving narrative as well.
Staffers down there in Chicago who are working for him,
yeah.
Those staffers in the White House who work for him, I guarantee you, Chuck, 95% of them would love to see Obama come out, would be totally supportive of him. They're dying for this to happen. It just needs the president to pull the trigger. He's holding them back.
How awkward is it going to be? I mean, not to be cliche here or stereotype Hollywood, but he's going to do this big $12 million fundraiser with George Clooney on Thursday night. Is he going to be the only guy in that room not supporting publicly gay marriage?
You know, I probably.
Yeah,
Getting your soul that night, that's for sure.
I mean, I was just going to say, you just feel, look, Hollywood Democratic donors, they follow these debates, the big picture debates, very closely. This is going to be the conversation at the fundraiser, is it not?
Right, it absolutely will be. I guess, like, to understand their side, I guess, is to understand your argument with Governor Perdue, which is to say that they want to, at this point, not let those political dimensions in North Carolina, Virginia, and those battleground states disrupt their rollout. I feel like they have an idea for a rollout, Chuck.
They're upset. You know what? And they're upset about the rollout.
On the rollout.
And you know what? You may be right. All right, we're going to talk about. Let's bring back our panel. Shira Toeplitz, Kasie Hunt, Faiz Shakir. Shira, you were just out in Indiana. Is Dick Lugar losing because he's not conservative enough, or is Dick Lugar losing because he doesn't have a residence in the state of Indiana?
I think it's more the latter. I think I've talked to a lot of operatives about, was this race savable? Could Dick Lugar have salvaged for himself his campaign for 7th term? And they say the turning point, without a doubt, were these residency issues. And not just, oh, maybe he moved out to Virginia 6 years ago. The fact that he was still using an address that he sold sometime for a house he sold sometime in the 70s. That's how bad it was. And that was really the point of no return.
You know, Kasie, I'm going to read you a list of senators that were state Senate in 2008. Okay, that will not be there in 2013. Republican side only: Lugar, John Warner, Arnold Specter, Judd Gregg, Bob Bennett, Olympia Snowe, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, Gordon Smith, George Voinovich, Chuck Hagel. Democratic side: Bob Byrd, Kennedy, Biden, Dodd, Lincoln, Nelson, Clinton, Obama. It's interesting when people talk about the big, you know, the grandiosity of the Senate, these people that would do the big things, work with the other side. Boy, that's a lot of Senate power gone.
It's most of the gang of X.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, look at the Republican side, this gang of 10. Yeah. You know, those are anybody that was ever on a bipartisan piece of legislation, the Republican side of the aisle, it was one of those 10 names.
And I think that's part of why you're seeing so much frustration in the American electorate right now. I mean, there's a reason why Congress isn't working the way even that it has in the past, despite the fact that there's always been gridlock. I mean, it's changed really dramatically even in the last 5 years.
You know, and it's interesting. You know, you've always heard there was debate among some Democrats during the John Roberts hearings about whether to support Roberts or not, right? Because he had some Democrats that were, and some supported him because they believed in this notion that you do that. Well, you know, one of the things that hurt Lugar is that when he went ahead and supported the president's, the Democratic president's picks for the Supreme Court. Are we now going to see the United States Senate just always now vote party lines on this stuff?
There's a purification on the right going on, and I think part of it has to do with the money. The money that is incentivizing, whether it's Club for Growth or Freedom Works, incentivizing the fact that you're rewarding people who are opposing Obama or opposing progress.
It rewards opposition.
It rewards opposition, standing up against something. And so I think.
But are you fearing that should this be the way that, I mean, you know, Democrats have been hit hard. Remember, Obama. The word is he always wished he could have had that Roberts vote back.
I don't see the same kind of trend on the left.
We're not seeing it as much.
Yeah, and I don't believe it will actually occur. On the right, there is that incentive. I think if I were Romney, I would be very concerned about this, because in the very unlikely event he is a president, like, how do you, with people whose whole argument for being in office was that they are warriors against you, against the cause?
Kasie, I want to ask you, watching Romney yesterday, the question, and deal with this questioner who made this treason comment. We'll let her decide whether we'll let others decide was it a joke, was it doesn't matter. His refusal to deal with it struck me as that this guy's just not a nimble candidate yet. Like, he didn't realize that was not a moment he should have just grabbed hold of things and said, hey, I have to woo swing voters who don't like that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to remember, Romney is a particularly cautious candidate. You know, he spends a lot of time, and his campaign spends a lot of time, making sure that the situations that he's in are pretty predictable. And so when you get these unpredictable moments at these town halls, which happen from time to time, a lot of times he'll just gloss over it.
He's not nimble at it at all, is he?
Right. Well, and he did, on the rope line after the event, decide to clarify. So it's almost as though he took some time to think about it.
Right, but it's sort of there. You just get the sense that there are other candidates, Shira, that just would have just grabbed that moment and just not let it define them.
Well, John McCain famously handled a similar situation 4 years ago, and he was good, and I think John McCain had the confidence to pivot at that, and Romney is not.
Shameless plug. Shira, go.
Roll call's coverage of Senator Dick Lugar's almost imminent loss at this point. Check it out at our website. Check it out tonight and tomorrow. There's more stuff.
Voters are still voting. I know, we're all doing this. I've done it too, but, you know, he could still win.
He could.
By the way, it would be a Dewey defeats Truman moment for all of us in the political press corps. Kasie, go.
Pulitzer Prize-winning reporters Matt Puzo and Adam Goldman broke the story yesterday of the bomb in Yemen.
Matt Puzo, another Daily Rundown favorite.
I don't do it enough, but I just want to plug and thank my team of 25 at Think Progress, and they work very hard and fairly anonymously, so I thank them.
You guys are having a pretty influential year, that's for sure. Faiz, Kasie, Shira, that's it.